Business Matters. The title suggests many things. The important issue is the world revolves around business, society, organizations, individuals, and even religion survives and thrives because of business. Business has to encompass not just financial commodity and service transactions. It has also to include welfare, justice, empowerment, environmental, and other issues too. Every week, Business Matters will delve into aspects of business that impact our lives. We will seek out extraordinary and ordinary people who have done extraordinary things. Facilitators, educators, and entrepreneurs will be invited to inspire and enlighten our listeners. Join Anwar Mullah for an interactive show and find out what really matters in business.
نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Yes, it's Monday night. It's Monday night and it's just gone on 7 o'clock, 8 minutes past 7 to be exact. It's time for Business Matters. Business Matters brought to you by the Minara Chamber of Commerce. You with me, Anwar Mullah, and you're going to be spending the next 45 to 50 minutes with me on what I would promise is going to be an exciting show, delving into the topic of leadership in business. And I have a guest on the line with me, a guest that needs certainly no introduction to the airwaves of Radio Al Ansar, a person who actually has been involved with Al Ansar or was involved with Al Ansar from its inception many years ago, a person who actually got me involved into the radio station, and that was many years ago, where he asked me to come in and present a business program at that time. And the person I'm talking about is none other than Mr. Solly Suleman. Solly, assalamu alaikum and welcome to Radio Al Ansar.
Wa alaikum salam. Thanks for having me on the radio.
Solly, wow, I believe it's a special year in your life and in the life of Mr. Ghulam Mohammed. 40 years since you started the Sparkport group of companies. That certainly is a fantastic milestone. So congratulations are in order, and 40 successful years, I would believe.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. Time has really gone quite quickly, and we can't actually believe. Just 1 second. I'm getting a bit of a feedback here.
Okay, you're coming across quite loud and clear to us. Yeah, that's Mr. Solly Suleman, Solly Suleman of the Sparkport group of companies. Solly.
Hello, sorry.
Yeah, Solly, is that any better?
Yeah, I think that's better.
Okay.
No, but there seems to be a bit of a echo.
Okay, we can hear you quite well here in the studio. As long as we're coming across okay to you, we can carry on with the program.
Well, that's fine.
Solly,
yeah,
40 years, does it? 40 years, does it feel that long? Are you feeling any older?
Well, when I look at the mirror, yeah. Lost a lot of hair. In fact, lost most of my hair. And alhamdulillah, it's been a wonderful journey.
Yeah, Solly, your partner Ghulam, I remember as a young boy, I actually used to go to, at that time was Springfield Cricket Ground, and then after that Siripat Road. Because Ghulam was a very, very good cricketer, and I used to go and watch his team, Kismat, playing cricket on many Saturday afternoons and full day Sunday. So, Ghulam comes from...
And he was a good... all-round sports person, played tennis and cricket, and of course golf.
Yeah. Maybe golf later in life, but at that time he was certainly a very good cricketer.
That's true.
Solly, Sparkport, 40 years. Can you kind of tell us where it all started from? Yeah,
Ghulam and I were students at the university initially, and the University of Durban Westfield was the so-called Indian university. I don't know, can they get another phone me back?
Yeah, Solly, I think maybe we'll get our technicians here to call you back. So we'll try to get Mr. Solly Suleman back on a better line. Seem to be having a problem with that, and I think in the meantime, just to chat a little bit about what we're discussing tonight. I thought it would be good to get Solly to speak about leadership in business. Very, very experienced in that field. Solly, as most of you know, has been involved in philanthropy and very much a part of the community, and has given off of himself, whether it be at the Ahmed Al-Qadi Hospital or many other charitable projects, always willing to put his hand up and be there for the community. His business, the Sparkport Group, celebrating 40 years. Certainly a milestone in the life of most businesses, and more particularly in the fact that he actually is in a partnership with his partner. As he says, they've been together since university days, Mr. Ghulam Mohammed. Not many partnerships last that long, really. I mean, you find that people get into a partnership situation, and then there comes a time when the business starts being successful that one of the partners actually believes that he's putting in more effort, more hours, and he's doing more for the business than the other person is, and eventually that leads to issues and problems, and eventually a breakup of the partnership. So, I mean, for the fact that the two of them have remained together for 40 years, still, working together, that in itself is absolutely remarkable. Many family businesses where you have a second or third generation coming through, where somebody starts a business, then you have the sons coming through, and then by the time you hit the third generation where the grandchildren start getting involved in a business, you already find problems coming through in those businesses, because maybe the one generation can work together, but the second generation, by the time we get there, it's kind of, they are loggerheads, and we've seen it. We've seen the three generation scenario play out quite a bit in our community and generally worldwide. There's this famous saying that says the first generation makes it, the second generation grows it, and the third generation breaks it. So and that three generation scenario really does play out, and that's why a lot of businesses now, in terms of progressive thinking, they get in a managing director or a leader for the business that comes in from outside of the family, because there's a realization that by the time the family hits the third generation, there's going to be the hunger is not there. The hunger that the initial people that started the business from, or the people that actually started the business, the hunger they had, the necessity they had, the amount of effort they put into starting the business. Yes, it goes through to a second generation who's learned from the initial person who started the business. But by the time it gets through to the third generation and you have cousins working with each another, it's not so great. So, Solly, yes, once again, I think we got you on a better line. Mondi here in the studio, our technician has worked some magic. So hopefully we can hear you a lot better now.
Alhamdulillah, perfect.
Oh, that's
perfect.
That's great.
That echo was creating a bit of a problem for me.
Okay. Solly, let's go back 40 years and talk about the inception of Sparkport. You said you and Ghulam were at university together, and
we were students in the 70s. Yes,
and so I mean, you both came out with a pharmacy degree. Was there plans to open a business there after something you discussed while you were at university, or it just happened to happen?
Yeah. Well, what happened was both of us, as I said, were students, and thereafter, we went off and did our internship. I did it at Kuduski, and Ghulam basically did it at King Edward.
Okay.
And then he went to the States and did his master's in clinical pharmacy, and I then became employed. I was employed at the University of Durban, Westfield, subsequently. And eventually became a lecturer. And then Ghulam joined me as a lecturer. So both of us lectured at the University of Durban, Westfield for a few years. And whilst lecturing, we did go into sort of business. We opened a pharmacy in partnership with four other people in Chatsworth. I think we were the first pharmacy in the heart of Chatsworth Centre. It was pitch dark at that time. There was no development there at all. Must have been about 38, 39 years. I
don't think the Chatsworth Centre, as we know it now, was there at the time. It was
it was Aisha Centre.
Okay.
And right opposite the police station. So we were there. You must know, we were there till late at night, and it was pitch dark because there was absolutely no development. And then from there, we opened a pharmacy in Pinetown and Station Pharmacy in Gani Road. These were three pharmacies that we opened while we were lecturing. And just the anecdote about Station Pharmacy, it was a white area. So we actually managed to rope in the head of department to become a nominee at that point in time.
Okay.
And subsequently, I think Ghulam explained that the other night at the function, that we basically, that time you had this apartheid scenario. So when we were lecturing, we had some relatively new lecturer come to the university and start lecturing, but he got a higher salary than ourselves.
Okay.
So we went to the rector and said, this is not on. So we spoke to our head of department, and then we went to the to the rector and said, this is not on. We need to get the same type of salary or better, because we've got far more experience, and you get new lecturers getting more than us. And he said, you're not happy, then you can rather leave. Right. So we decided to leave. So I think he did us a great favor then, because at that point in time, we're not that ambitious to go into full-time lecture, into full-time business. We actually thought we'll do that as whilst lecturing. Right. But anyway, this is where the Sparkport story began. So, both of us decided rather resign from the lecturing post and get into business. That's what we did in 1983,
The name Sparkport, where does that evolve from?
Yeah, so, we looked at trying to find a name, and we actually, the premises that we found was where we were initially at 281 Sparks Road, where you got the Baba's there now, the restaurant Baba's that's there. But that was our original pharmacy. And when we approached the landlord, he says, no, he's already given it to some other person, And I must actually acknowledge, Mr. Gora Kadodia, who actually intervened on our behalf at that point in time to get that premises, allocated to us. And that's where we started the first Sparkport pharmacy. Now, you mentioned that, the name came from Sparks Road in Overport. So, Sparks Road was the first part of the name, and Port was the second part. So we made it Sparkport, mixing those two names up, or combining those two names. Okay. That's where Sparkport came from, so yes.
Sparks Road and Overport, a combination of the two gives Sparkport. Okay. Yeah. Interesting, yeah. Sparkport, obviously now a household name some 40 years later. Solly, so you mentioned originally you were 5 or 6 partners in Chatsworth and in Station. So by the time you opened Sparkport in Overport, were the others shut, or somebody else took them over?
Yeah, so we had we had a pharmacist as a managing pharmacist in Chatsworth. So when we decided to leave the university, we gave her an offer. We said, either you take over the pharmacy in Chatsworth or we take it over. And then she decided to buy us out there. And then same principle. And then Pinetown we sold to another pharmacist. Okay. In Station Pharmacy, we actually eventually closed it because, although it was in a strategic area, but that Amgeni station never really took off. So it wasn't very viable. So that we actually eventually shut down, at some stage. So when we opened Sparkport in Overport, we actually started from scratch.
Yeah, I mean, it's a daunting prospect where you got 2 people starting off a pharmacy. You basically, I would imagine, have put your life savings into starting it off, not knowing how successful it's going to be, and possibly with young families at that time. Not an easy decision to make.
It was quite a difficult decision because we didn't expect the rector to tell us that, if you don't like it, Assalamu alaikum, carry on. But he did the best thing for us, and we had to kind of, we kind of almost left with our tail between our legs and say, okay, fine, we can't go back on our word now. And then, as I said, that was the best thing that happened. And then, of course, you're right. Basically, I was married. Ghulam at that point was not married, and then fortunately we didn't have children, so we had to kind of make do. And when you start a business from scratch, it's not that easy, because a greenfield project is always a challenging thing, But our concept was always this thing. It was always, based on the fact that medicines was really not a want, it was a need, and we needed to make things affordable. So I think the concept of retailing and the concept of discounting and what have you was introduced by ourselves in not just in Sparkport, in Overport or in Durban, but in the country. We were kind of almost the first discounter of medicines right from the day we started the business, because remember those days you had such ridiculous discounts and rebates and bonuses that you get 2+1s and 1+1s and sometimes 1+2s, so your margins were great. And unfortunately that time the pharmacists were not retailers. They were not trading professionals, they were professionals, and they happened to make money out of maximum markup. Those days you had to make you made a markup of 50% on your cost, on your book cost, not on your net cost, but on your book cost. So it means whatever your net cost was not even taking into account your bonuses, that type of thing, So like in fact in myself, now my wife had to work while she and pay the rental at our apartment. It was such a tiny apartment, you could hardly move in the apartment. That's how tiny the apartment was in Brickfield Road. So she had to work and pay the rent, and to make sure that we were able to make ends meet as such. And then we kind of started from scratch. I remember we took a 5,000 rand overdraft from Standard Bank at that point in time. Okay. And then, of course, and our wholesalers really played a very important role in supplying us stock and ensuring that we, gave us terms to pay. And so we started from basically almost nothing.
Sorry, the regulatory environment at that time, I mean, I know now there's a lot of that around, but was it as onerous at that time as it is now?
Well, the one good thing then is that you basically had pharmacy ownership restricted to pharmacists only, so you couldn't, it wasn't like now how the corporates have capitalized and, which is a big challenge nowadays. It was actually, you had absolutely, the conditions were quite stringent, but the thing is you were not compromised with the type of, regarding business as such, because you were basically, there wasn't an SEP, there wasn't this issue of no rebates and no bonuses and all that type of thing, which we have now. And if you had to survive just on the type of dispensing fee that we have now, most pharmacies won't survive, So obviously there's other revenue streams. But then it was, you had a good profit margin. Pharmacists were able to make, even if you're running a small pharmacy, you could actually make a decent living, So that was the case there. But there was a certain amount of restriction, I must tell you this, and then we were kind of the pioneers in getting rid of some of the, restrictions with respect to the Pharmaceutical Society of South Africa. You couldn't open till 10:30 at night.
Right.
Our opposition there was Sydenham Pharmacy, and they were able to open till 10:30 at night, and then you had medicine depots. Right. So the restriction was that any new retail pharmacy opens at that point in time, you had to close by 5:30, 6 o'clock in the evening, and the pharmacy medicine depots were the only ones that could actually open till late in the evening, and then you then had to pay a late fee and all those type of things. But if you got your medicines after 6,
right,
there was a certain fee that you had to pay for night, the type of after hour type of dispensing fee and that type of thing. So people were quite exploited then, So we decided, no, we're not going to accept this. We're going to open till late in the night. Now, the society basically had the clause that said if you didn't follow their type of regulations, then they'll definitely not allow you to do the processing of medical aids via them. And that point, that was the restriction. No other clearinghouse could do the medical aid claims. You had to do it via the Pharmaceutical Society of South Africa.
Okay.
So when we told them, we're opening till late, and they should sit outside the pharmacy monitoring this. And when they called us, they called us to a meeting and said, this is not acceptable. We're going to stop processing your medical aid, and that would have really, affected us. And the most of those, there's another story with that. I mean, most of these guys were whites, obviously. Not most, all were whites. And many of them were from the different wholesalers. So we basically, I know MS Umar was our attorney that time. We said, MS, you come with us. He was a new attorney. He just started off in the practice. So he came with us. That's where I got to know this story about ultra-vires law. Because, we told these guys that what you are saying is ultra-vires law. The clause 9 of the regulations is totally ultra-vires law, and we're not prepared to accept it. We're going to open till late. And they stopped our medical aid claims. They said, no, we're not going to do that. And we had to, do an interdict against them and summon, subpoena the whole bang lot into to court, basically. And the next thing we did, we were instrumental in opening Farmed Pharmaceuticals, the wholesaler. We said, if these guys are all wholesalers,
right, that
are giving us such a hard time, let's give them a hard time. And we brought in the doctors, and we said you can own shares in Farmed Pharmaceuticals. And again, that's another name that we actually created.
Okay.
We said you got pharmacists and doctors. Let's call it. In fact, initially we said SparkMed, and then we said no. Let's call it PharmMed, because pharmacists are medical doctors. So that's where PharmMed was created at that point in time. Wow. So that's where all.
I didn't know that that you guys were
so many stories
setting up PharmMed as well. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, we set a farm made at that point in time, and and then the wholesalers came to us. No, this cause withdraw this case. We'll basically withdraw that regulation 9, and we'll allow you all to open late. You guys pay your cost, we'll pay our cost. We said no. You pay our cost and your cost, and we call it a day. And then we were two young pharmacists that took on the bloody giants at that point in time. It was in the newspapers in I don't know about 30 some odd years ago.
Well, I suppose when you're young, you're a little bit reckless as well. So
yes, yeah, that's true. We couldn't care a damn, But anyway, we still don't care a damn.
I was mentioning while we were waiting to get you back on air that is remarkable that you and Ghulam have managed to stay together in a partnership for 40 years. I mean, most family businesses, even the cousins and the uncles, can't stay together once the first generation goes, and they end up with problems and difficulties, and they're at the throats of each another. So, I mean, to be together with a partner for 40 years, there must have been some challenging times where at some stage you guys must have said, maybe we should go our own ways, or I mean, tell us about some of the challenges that you had during that time.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's the thing is, the most important thing about a partnership is really trust and having faith in each other, and of course complementing each other. I think this is the thing. And you're right. I mean, we've had our ups and downs, and at times we get to a point where we find that, maybe it's not going to work. There was a time, a long, long time ago, I think at one stage, we had, Ghulam got shot as one stage as well, because we had caught some of the guys stealing. And unfortunately he got shot, and then we had a bit of drama about that and whatever. But overall, I mean, I must say we're quite lucky. But it's, as I said, the foundation of a partnership like ours is trust and lack of selfishness. You don't start you don't start expecting. Both parties have to play their role, and which is what we do. In fact, often Ghulam does more than he should.
Because Solly Suleman is more busy doing other things, like spending his time at Ahmad Al Qadi and everywhere else besides being in a pharmacy.
Exactly. This is the whole idea. The whole thing is that there can't be this selfishness. I mean, you basically complement each other. You both sacrifice the time and that type of thing. And and I mean, we both really played an important role in each other's lives. But you're right. I mean, it's not everyone that can be in a partnership. But fortunately, we kind of gelled from university as students, Right. So and we kind of find that each one is important to the business. I mean, I'm quite happy because I can go off whenever I want to, and he can go off when he wants to, because one of us is there.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's really, and we wouldn't want to change that at all. You got your independence plus you together as well. I mean, if I want to travel today, I mean, we don't now count the hours anymore.
Sure. Yeah.
It's like I have to tell him, do me a favor, take a break.
Yeah. So which brings us to the fact that, I mean, you obviously have been involved in philanthropy, giving off for the community for many, many, many years. And I mean, let's face it, even Radio Al Ansar, I would think that you played a very, very integral part in getting Radio Al Ansar onto the airways together with people like Riaz Jamal at the time. Because I know when I first got involved with the radio station, it was through you that I actually got involved. So, I mean, tell us a little bit about your community involvement, your involvement, I would think, with the community organizations like Radio Al Ansar, and where did that all start from?
Yeah, I see. That's another story. Such an important story. Because Mrs. Maith and A.K. Lockett had spoken to me. Must have been about 30 some odd years ago. The Women's Cultural Group signed a lease with the Emil Sultan Trust, with Yunus Sultan and his trustees, to basically lease the premises at 222 Kenilworth Road.
Right.
It was called the Mariam B. Sultan Center.
That's right. Yeah.
And then we had that house in the back, and we had the double-story building in the front. It was in a hell of a state. It was like a homeless shelter type of thing. It was just decrepit, and it was actually abandoned almost. So when Women's Culture got involved, they called me and A.K. Lockett, and both of us got involved in getting to renovate the premises and that type of thing. And when I looked at the property in the back, that house that now I think there's a bookshop or something there.
I think at some stage there was a nursery school there as well. If I
yeah, so we initiated all that. So basically, I phoned Mohammed Yusuf. I said, Mohammed, I mean, you're in the game of building and all these type of things, and this house is in such a bad state. Why don't you help us, renovate this place, because we want to have a preschool, madrasa, that type of thing. And Muhammad said, sorry, they used to be with Shaukat al-Islam in, near the Muhammadiyah Masjid,
right.
Sparkswood Masjid.
Yeah.
And he said, Solly, they had some drama and politics there, and they had to leave that Shaukat al-Islam madrasa. I said, why don't we like to take these premises for the purpose of a madrasa and preschool? So I said, Mohammed, let me speak to Mrs. Maid. In fact, Mrs. Maid up to today she was upset with me. She said, why did you give it away to them? I said, but they'll be able to put it together. We can manage the one in the front, the building in the front. The Women's Culture Group will take the bottom and we take the top. And so that's what happened. So IMA, Islamic Medical Association, took the upper floor, and I was I've been involved with the IMA for almost about 40 years
now. Solly Lockhart Auditorium is now at the top there.
Yes. Yeah. So there we said we'll put the IMA with the offices and whatever, and then downstairs the Women's Culture Group would take it. And then I said, why don't we just leave it to Mr. Muhammad Yusuf to take that? Let him renovate it and, help get it all done. And if they want to put a madrasa preschool, it meets the objectives of the trust,
right?
And that's how Al Ansar started. So I was not interested in being involved in madrasa and preschool and that type of thing. It wasn't my thing now. But Muhammad Yusuf made me a trustee in the Al Ansar Islamic Society and started this whole thing. And that's where eventually radio, in fact, that's another story where Babu Jadwat was actually involved and some other guys. I think Solly Suleman was also involved, if I'm not mistaken, at that point in time, with Azania Broadcasting Corporation. So they had applied for a full-time license, and they said they needed someone like Al Ansar to run a 30-day broadcast. We didn't even have any idea or any clue. And that's how Al Ansar got into the events license. And after that, obviously at this point, eventually got a full-time license. And I was when I got involved there, that's how I got involved in Al Ansar fully, because I wasn't really, madrasa preschool was not challenging to me. It's something that ran. And guys like Riyad Jamal and Muhammad Yusuf and what you call... Azim Baxnal were able to manage that process. But once the radio came in, that was something that I was quite happy to drive. And I sort of became the head of the radio and that type of thing. So when we moved premises as well to West Road,
right,
I continued being the head of that radio station. And that's where all the major projects of Al Ansar in UA was something that I took on. Even the building, we started that building with a loan from the Trust and... and we paid them back 3 million rands, and we even went overseas to get funding for that project. And the Souk, of course, Souk was my baby as well. I started that as a flea market and eventually took it to the next level. The bookshop was an idea that we decided to put together. So all the big projects, even the outreach program that started, with on a Eid day with Ibrahim, I forget his surname now, but Ibrahim was out in the Hammersdale and feeding people. I said, then why don't we do that as a project? And suddenly the outreach program became a huge project. Alhamdulillah. Then Islamic Medical Association, basically Muhammad Mayat and Hanif Khatri and Ghulam Hussain came and met my partner Ghulam and I once at our apartment in the urged to stay in Reservoir Hills.
Yeah.
And they said, no, we're starting this at IMA and we need you guys to join and that type of thing. And, we said, okay, inshallah, we'll do that. And then that was it. We weren't going to really join. This way, I wasn't really didn't even have it in my radar to be involved in Islamic work and Islamic NGOs and that type of thing. But ultimately, Muhammad Maid was persistent. You come to the meetings, we want you to be here at the meetings. And eventually I started going to the meetings, and, it's like a virus,
Yeah.
Once it catches you, it's an incurable virus. You get involved in, and I don't regret it, you get involved in the uplifting the community, the disadvantaged. You get a satisfaction, and then you're doing it for the pleasure of the Almighty, alhamdulillah. So, I've gotten sucked up into so many different, when I look at my CV, I've been through so many different, I'm still the trustee and on the board of management of Darul Yatama.
Okay.
I was on Sahuk, and I was in a kidney association, and I was in the independent community. I started the independent community pharmacy association, and many others.
And yet today still involved as president of the Minara Chamber as well.
Okay, yeah, I didn't even talk about the Minara Chamber. yeah. Minara Chamber is an important organization as well. It needs to really, the purpose is to empower our community, empower the women, empower the youth, create a vehicle for Muslim businesses as such, to do business the Islamic way, but the challenge there is, again, people don't really seem to think it's a necessity, or alternatively, if they want to use it when it suits them, and then when it comes to being members and paying up members, you find the support is not really there, But yet it's such an important vehicle of the community. We're now members of the ICCIA, the International Islamic Chamber of Commerce and Industry and Agriculture. And that's got such a powerful tool, and such a powerful vehicle. And the Secretary General was in South Africa recently and a while back, and he told Shabir Chauhan, you guys need to get it moving to the next level. He's got so many ideas and so many concepts that he wants to implement, where he can really create a vehicle that brings people together, grows the community's wealth, create entrepreneurship opportunities. And so we quite, in fact, next month in Doha, there's a General Assembly of ICCIA, and we're hoping to be there, just to find ways to give value to our people out here. But, again, people need to understand and appreciate the value of the organization. It's not like what John F. Kennedy said. It's not just about what the country can do for you. It's also what you can do for the country, and the same principle applies. It's not what Minara can do for you. It's what you can do for Minara and for the community by being part of it and helping humanity and uplifting humanity.
Solly, we're going to go for an ad break, but when we get back, I'm going to talk to you a little bit more in depth about Sparkport itself and the role that maybe your staff have played in terms of growing the business with you. And I'm sure that you may have some staff that have been with you maybe since inception or very close to inception. And again, businesses, the staff play an integral part. So we'll delve a bit into that aspect of the business after the ad break.
Okay, no problem.
Radio Al-Ansar, 24/7, 365.
Get ready for the biggest shopping event of the year.
Simplex Radio's month-long Black November savings is here.
Philips air fryers from just 999 Rand.
Defi 20-litre microwave oven and unbelievable 899 Rand.
Get the Samsung 15 kg top loader for only 6,999 Rand.
Or the Samsung 8 kg front loader for just 5,999 Rand. Valid while stocks last.
Simplex Radio, the name you can trust.
Somalia's worst drought in 40 years has left affected areas in desperate need of food and water. The crisis is impacting more than 6.7 million people, with more than 1 million displaced. Al Imdad Foundation is providing critically needed food, water, and emergency relief aid to drought-displaced families in the worst affected areas of Somalia. Donate now and help keep famine at bay. Visit alimdad.com or call 0861 786 243 for more information.
In memory of our martyrs in Palestine.
The Durban Summer Souk is back again, and we're super excited. We've got everything for everyone. Carnival rides, comedy shows, a petting zoo, and of course, absolutely delicious cuisine. My favorite part of the souk is an incredible variety for children, women, and men. The Durban Summer Souk, 22nd December until the 1st of January at the Durban Exhibition Centre. See you there.
Audio stream across the world on radioalansar.co.za.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Radio Al Ansar, it is the Minara Chamber of Commerce Business Matters program with me, Anwar Mullah. And I've been having a very, very interesting conversation and reminiscing with Solly Suleman about 40 years of Sparkport Pharmacy, where it all started from, where it is now, and Solly's role in all of that, as well as his philanthropic work in the community. Solly, I said we're going to talk a bit about staffing. Surely staffing, an integral part of any business, can make you or break you. You surely must be surrounded by some very, very reliable, trustworthy staff.
Yeah, no, we had a dinner the other night, and we have staff that range from people that have started recently to people that have been with us. I mean, one lady has been with us for 38 some odd years, and quite a large number of our staff are there for over 20 some odd years. Like we always tell our staff, and then one of the important foundations of Sparkport is that we're an excellent training ground for people. We run programs. We actually employ about 130 to 140 staff. So you're actually taking care of over 1,000 people. So that's excluding our franchise stores. So we basically have a large number of staff. But at the same time, I think we're a training ground. One of the foundations is that we're a training ground. And I always tell our staff when they join us, you either come through Sparkport or you come to Sparkport. And if you come through Sparkport, you basically own what you learn. Right. It's yours. And we run training programs all the time. Now, if you go to any of our corporate store, right, there's almost a 90% chance you'll find a ex-Sparkport pharmacy staff there. And, we were the first group in our city branch. We've got 5 branches, in Musgrave and City, Overport.
And we'll talk a bit about the branches now, because
we'll come back to that. Yeah. Okay. So we were the first people in the province, I think, that started training pharmacist assistants. Basically, when you say pharmacist assistant, that must have been 30 some odd years ago. And the first one to train Black African pharmacist assistants. So in our city store, we started that process, and our Overport store, where we started training people up. Besides, we were one of the first few pharmacies that started taking on pharmacy interns as well. Okay. And those Black Africans, they could basically, because you got a large number of Zulu-speaking patients in the city, and then from there they were poached by the public sector hospitals. When we trained them up, so we've got a large number of staff. We basically have people that have been there for a long time. We've got really a head office structure where we've got a lady head of marketing who's about 28 years with us. We've got a lady that's in the buying department is 38 years. We've got our person that works in our marketing department. We've got a new lady that's head of marketing, but the graphic designer is there for almost just under 20 years. So, we've got quite a large number of staff in that way. In our city store, one of our supervisors there for over 20 some odd years. So we've got a lot of committed, loyal staff who stick around with us for a long time.
Solly, you started off at the premises which is now currently occupied by Baba's. When did the big move come where you moved to the big corner premises which you currently occupy at the moment?
Yeah, so that's another story. Basically it was a parking lot. Lots of stories. He said so many stories. I mean, like my memoirs now. So this was a service station that was actually closed up, and it was then offered to us next to the initial premises. Yeah. So when it was offered to us for about 50,000 rand, we grabbed it. We said, hey, this is an ideal opportunity. Right. Let's buy this premises. Even if worst case scenario, we put our own pharmacy there. Or second, if it's not the case, then we'll use it as parking. Right. And fortunately for us, we basically bought it for that price, and then the premise, then Dr. Bronze. I think most people know Dr. Bronze, an old doctor in the area. I must tell you another story about him. Once when we opened in Overport, and after a year, he phones me and tells me, "What's going on with you guys?" I said, "What do you mean, what's going on?" He said, "But why are my patients asking me to phone you?" I said, well, why don't you ask them? What's the point in asking me? Why don't you ask them? I mean, we give good service. We discount the medicines. We're here for till late in the night. So anyway, years later, he became close to us. Poor chap passed away recently with cancer. But so he basically phoned me once and said, Solly, I'm looking for, there's a shop next door to that Solly stores. And I want it for my practice. I want to move from where I am. So I said, Dr. Brown, let me check. Let's follow up. We never say die, and we'll do whatever it takes to try and get you the premises. So my partner Gulam phoned the landlord. He said, you got these premises here. It's closed.
Yeah.
What you doing? No, someone rented it. So I told Gulam, ask him if he wants to sell it. So he asked him. So the guy said, 150 grand. So Gulam looked at me and said, tell him done. We'd buy it for him. And next day, the guy comes back to know, and I've got my partner here. My brother is my partner. He says, too less. Anyway, we paid him 160,000, And then we went back to Dr. Brown, said, you wanted these premises. We got it for you. He said, what? He said, he said, aish. So you guys can do everything. We said, we got it. You wanted it, we got it. So we got that. So eventually what we did, we decided to basically put up our own block there and phone pharmacy. So we had to get the premise, the land rezoned and that type of thing. And I remember our neighbor then told us, but you can't use this property. There's tanks underneath for fuel. We said, whatever it is, we'll sort it out. And eventually we decided to put up quite this big sort of long, a new concept pharmacy. And I remember this was like a ridiculous thing to be putting up, like a chain store, corporate type of supermarket type of pharmacy. And we must, but then again, we just had this vision. We're just going to put up something nice and smart and, for the futuristic, having a seminar room and clinic and a photographic section and, really something smart and it cost us a packet in those days. I remember it cost us about R1 million, in 1992, that was a lot of money. So 31 years ago. And basically, I think it's a business part to South Africa. It was the Business Development, Small Business Development Corporation that funded us at that point in time for the interior and stock and whatever it is, So that was the story there, as far as that is concerned,
And then the expansion drive into branches.
Yeah, so one of the things we initiated again, and fortunately with two heads, you always got some ideas and concepts, and you brainstorm, and that's why it's such an important thing to have more than one head put together. So with Gulam and I, we brainstormed a lot of things, and we decided, we were one of the first discounters of medicine. Then we also the first pharmacy group. The pharmacists were the professional. Now you sit behind the counter, you counsel, and you do whatever it is, and you're not so-called trading professionals in a sense. But we were kind of traders rather than entrepreneurs rather than just health professionals. So we decided to basically advertise on radio and newspapers and we were on Radio Truro, Capital Day. We were one of the few. I talked to Robin Sewell. I'll tell you, we were one of the first pharmacy groups on Capital Radio at that time when they were so-called the Transkai they were broadcasting. And so then we realized that, if you're just going to stay with one branch, you're going to have a situation where you're not capitalizing on getting people traveling. I mean, everybody couldn't make it to Overport. So we said, that was in 92 when things started opening up, the so-called democracy was kind of almost on our doorstep and we could open in the city center. We said, no, now if you're going to be advertising the way we're advertising on radio and newspapers and that type of thing, we need to be in a central place. Now that central place we said was the city center. And so a person can take a bus, a car, a train, whatever it is, and get to the city center. And, up to now, the black African population throng into the city center, so that's something that's there. So we decided to find premises, which we eventually got in Smith Street. Now, Smith Street was not the right part of town. It was in the wrong part of town. West Street was where the action was. But we said, let's open here. And it's over 1,000 square meters. We're upstairs and downstairs.
Right.
I said, let's do what we have to do. Doing the same thing, but now you can get bang for your buck when it comes to marketing, advertising. You can, get people there. Now, city center at one stage was all whites. You couldn't open there, Then you had the Regent pharmacies and the City Chems and Pasture Pharmacy and all these guys around there, and all white-owned pharmacies. And we went into the heart of all that, and thank goodness for that. We actually were able to capitalize on marketing. We grew the turnovers, and alhamdulillah, I think, in fact, almost all those guys closed up around us eventually because they couldn't really compete, ours was a typical high volume, low markups, stack and pack type of thing, and it worked quite well for us,
Okay.
So that was where we...
I'm sure that then probably gave you the encouragement to move out into taking on more pharmacies and growing even further.
Yeah, correct. So we decided to open we opened in Quality Street around the same time. We took over an existing business. We took over a pharmacy in, there was a group that owned Musgrave, where we have the Sparkport, where Country Bakers, we had a Sparkport there.
Right.
Then we had something in Durban North, we opened in Crescent, Slanga, we opened in Hillcrest. And one of the things was to actually, and eventually Warner Beach, one of the things that we had in mind was to really focus on franchising and wholesaling. We said, empower people. So let's where this pharmacist manager, let's see if he takes over and buys the pharmacies and runs it. And that's what we did at Sparkport, Durban North, Crescent in Umslanga, Hillcrest, and Pietermaritzburg. We did that as well. And we empowered, we said, pharmacists, there's an opportunity, we'll get it funded for you guys, and you take it and run with it. Unfortunately, the guy that took over the Sparkport, Durban North and Umslanga, he made a mess of it. Some of the young pharmacists have this habit of wanting to spend on fancy cars and fancy homes before you even make the money, And then Hillcrest was the same problem. So those three pharmacies eventually closed up. We were the first guys to actually franchise in the country, and be registered with the Franchise Association of South Africa. And we still have three franchises, Chatsworth, Umlazi, and Pietermaritzburg. But what happened is that ownership opened up. So your big corporates kind of, created such a challenge that you couldn't really continue the franchise route,
Okay. So at the moment, how many are owned by yourselves and how many franchises are there?
Well, we own 5 of our own pharmacies in, Overport, Musgrave, Quality Street, City Centre and Warner Beach, and then 3 are franchises, Chatsworth, Umlazi and Maritzburg.
Okay. The other big question coming to the end of the program, which all of us, and as you said, you've lost your hair and I think have gone whiter than you want to be. Succession planning in the business. That's something that has to be thought of and planned for. What is the succession planning in the Sparkport group of companies looking like?
Yeah. Ghulam, my partner Ghulam's son is already with us. Ziad, he's been with us for a few years. He's getting trained and groomed now. So he's effectively the chief operating officer. So he's kind of got a hang of what's going on in the business and what have you. And then his son Ziad also has been in the business, but he's going for further education. And it's possible that my son Mohammed will probably join us. He's just completing his articles now. They say BNT.
Right.
So something that we have in, something that he's been hinting that he wants to join the business. So it's possibly that we get him involved. And it basically makes, the way ahead much easier. And then obviously there's options of, looking at growing the business by mergers, acquisitions, those type of things,
Inshallah. Solly, it's been quite wonderful talking to you. We haven't touched on a lot of stuff that I would have liked to have spoken about, but time has run out and Solly Suleman is never lost for words. So, yeah. But we'll chat again, inshallah, sometime soon about Sparkport and the future plans, and obviously in terms of yourself and your vision for the future in the many organizations that you're involved with, because we haven't even touched on Ahmed Al Qadi and so much else. So, but yeah, I mean, you've been a pillar of strength for many people in the community, and I applaud you for that. And you've managed to get a lot of people involved in community work, people that were like yourself, we're never involved with community work, but through encouragement by mentors like yourself, have got involved and have now started to take on leadership positions. So there's a lot that the community needs to thank you for, and I know you do it selflessly. Sometimes I would have imagined when you were setting up the pharmacies and then still being involved in Radio Al-Ansar and all of the other organizations. I wonder if your family ever saw you in the evenings, probably in meetings until very late at night most times. But
I was an absentee father.
So yeah, I mean, I think the community owes you, but I know you do it with love and passion. So thanks for that. And inshallah, we'll chat again in the future. And as far as Sparkport is concerned, inshallah, may Allah Ta'ala give you all the strength to grow it from strength to strength. Take it to many more branches, if that's the vision for the company, and take it from generation to generation, inshallah. So, yeah.
Inshallah. I mean, thanks a lot for having me on the show.
Until next week, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Radio Al-Ansar Podcasts.